now to Ethiopia, where fighting has cost hundreds of lives in the northern region of Tigray. Forces loyal to the federal government, headed by Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, and on the other hand, the Tigray People's Liberation Front is threatening to break the country apart. The latest development has seen the leadership in Tigray claim responsibility for missile attacks on nearby provinces and also on neighbouring Eritrea. A move, of course, which could draw Ethiopia's former enemy into the conflict. There's great concern for the stability of the wider region. To discuss this, we can turn to Ethiopian journalist Zacharias Zelalem in Toronto, in Canada. Now, Zacharias, we have to sort of do a health warning every time we do this story because it's very, very hard to get any information out of the area in question. Are you managing to get any information out of Ethiopia? How much do we know about what's actually happening in Tigray?
Yes, you're right. It's quite a task authenticating the accounts that are coming out of the region. You have both sides making claims and counterclaims. Some of them look maybe realistic, others far-fetched. We're getting a better idea now with the mass exodus from the region, something like 20,000 refugees that have poured into Sudan, and they're giving journalists a better account of what's going on, including the ghastly atrocities, massacres, aerial bombardments. But it's going to take weeks and the eventual restoration of phone services and the internet for us to be able to get a real concrete picture of what it is that has actually transpired.
I suppose what we can talk about with confidence is the fact that the Tigrayans themselves admit that they have shelled or launched missiles against neighbouring Ethiopian provinces, but also over the border into Eritrea. Now, why would they seem to be picking a fight with Eritrea?
Well, the Tigrayan regional government alleges that Eritrea is a participant in the war on the side of the federal government. It's no secret that the Eritrean government has a vested interest in seeing the Tigrayan regional government be removed. It has very openly expressed its support of Abiy's military initiatives. However, we are not able to verify if indeed Eritrean forces have intervened militarily, primarily because of the shutdown. But the regional government alleges that the rocket attacks are in self-defense, retaliatory moves, something that's very hard to confirm as of yet.
What do we know, for example, about, I think we sort of fall into shorthand, particularly non-experts such as myself. We talk about Tigray and the TPLF as if they are one thing, as if the people in the party are the same. Now, I know that there were opposition parties in Tigray, but what happened at a moment like this, I suppose, everyone rallies round the flag? Is that what you imagine is going on in Tigray?
Well, when we talk about the TPLF party, we're talking about an organization with a thin razor tolerance for dissent. There was almost no open political participation in Ethiopia for 27 years during its time at the helm of government, which ended in 2018. In times of war, there's even a thinner tolerance for any sort of dissent or criticism from domestic parties. I imagine that they won't be given any sort of forum right now, and with the information blockade, any platform that they might have had, any minimal platform that they might have enjoyed previously, is obviously non-existent by this point.
Right. Well, listen, Zacharias, many thanks indeed. Zacharias Zelalem, talking to us from Toronto in Canada. The latest developments, as he mentioned there, many refugees, 20,000 was the figure that he quoted, crossing the border into Sudan, and also regionally. Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni is offering to mediate in the crisis as well.
We move to Ethiopia, where the 12-day conflict in the country appears to be escalating rapidly. Over the weekend, forces from the Tigray region fired rockets at an airport in neighbouring Eritrea, widening the scope of the region's conflict with the central government of Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed in Addis Ababa. And as always with wars, civilians are already paying the price, with thousands of people fleeing their homes. Ethiopian journalist Zacharias Zelalem walked us through another weekend of escalating tension.
What we have in Ethiopia is the result of 2 years of brewing tensions between Ethiopia's central government in the capital city Addis Ababa and a regional government in Tigray, which is in the north of the country. We can say the regional government in the north has gone rogue because the two entities have fallen out over how to govern the country and over the central government's decision to postpone elections because of the pandemic that were scheduled for August of this year. The polarizing rhetoric got worse and worse as months went by, and on November 4th, things deteriorated into military hostilities between the two. We are now 12 days into a civil war.
And it seems to be spreading as well, in that over the weekend, forces loyal to certainly the administration in Tigray appear to have fired rockets into Eritrea, a place where, well, peace between Ethiopia and Eritrea has only recently been breached. It won Abiy Ahmed, the Prime Minister of Ethiopia, a Nobel Peace Prize.
Yes, it did. Abiy made the gesture and headed to Asmara to sign the historical peace deal in 2018, and ever since, Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed and Eritrea's President Isaias Afwerki have been the closest of allies in the region. And as such, Eritrea is very open in its siding with Abiy to wipe out the Tigrayan regional government from its Mekelle stronghold. However, there's nothing as of yet to authenticate allegations that Eritrean soldiers are actually involved in the fighting. That is what the Tigray regional government is claiming, and its launching of rockets into the Eritrean capital Asmara was, according to their state media outlets, self-defense and retaliatory measures taken to prevent an Eritrean assault on Tigrayan territories.
And as it appears to escalate into a wider regional affair, we are seeing thousands of people already being displaced from their homes and trying to cross the border to seek refuge in neighboring countries.
A UNHCR official told me that some 17,000 people had fled Ethiopia towards neighboring Sudan. The extent of the humanitarian crisis is only now being known as refugees are sharing harrowing accounts of atrocities, of mass killings in areas that are cut off from internet and phone access, and thus unreachable for journalists.
It seems all the stranger, Zacharias, to people watching from the outside who perhaps heard, well, over the years, that Ethiopia has been held up as this great bastion of as an African success story, the fastest growing economy on the continent, big global brands that people might recognize, the government opening up, trying to make itself a foothold for Western companies to come in and have a piece of the economic action across the continent, to be descending into what looks like it could be a full-on civil war. Perhaps seems strange to people who don't live in Addis Ababa or watch the country as closely.
Yes, Ethiopia has made headlines for its double-digit growth, as well as the successes of the brands you mentioned, such as Ethiopian Airlines, but its economic successes, if you may, have not contributed to any sort of domestic stability as of yet. This despite the 2018 ushering in of a quote-unquote reformer prime minister in Abiy Ahmed, because a year into his tenure, the democratic reform that had been promised was put on hold of sorts, and the arrests of journalists, of political dissidents, of critics made the headlines. So the sort of uncompromising stance that he's had towards his political opponents is kind of what he has reflected here with his decision to go to war with the TPLF.
And given what you've just said there, how confident are you that there'll be any talks even about a short-term ceasefire, let alone a long-term cessation of this conflict?
In recent hours, we've heard now that there will be some sort of effort by neighboring Uganda to intervene and hold talks with both warring entities. However, the likelihood of the success of any such talks is very slim, with both sides continuing to use very polarizing rhetoric. You have in the TPLF an entity that is openly threatening to launch rockets into densely populated urban centers. And then on the other side, you have Abiy Ahmed, who's announcing that if his foes do not surrender in 3 days, he will launch an all-out offensive to push them out of their remaining strongholds.
Zacharias Zalalam. You're with World Business Report on the BBC World Service. We've spoken a lot on the programme in recent years about the breakdown of globalisation.